Alrighty, so this is Monday, the night before SHOT Show. I got here the day earlier for two reasons. So one is a company called GPO, German Precision Optics, had a media event. So I went to that, and then I met for dinner with a gentleman named Gregor. I can't pronounce Polish names, probably can't pronounce his, but he's the guy who runs Delta Optical out of Poland. Delta Optical was a subject of several discussions on Sniper's Hide lately, so I was curious, and I've had some email exchange with him before. Several people have told me that I really should take a look at Delta Optical products. So this time Gregor made it to SHOT, and I had dinner with him, chatted a little bit. It was sort of my introduction to Delta Optical. So first on the camera stuff, I am again experimenting with the microphone a little closer to my face. It's here, just outside your field of view. Hopefully you will hear me better. But anyhow, let's see what I got. So both companies are new companies to me. I've heard of GPO, I've heard of Delta. I've never really seen any of their products until today. With German Precision Optics, I got a chance to have my hands on some of their stuff. We were in a fairly small room, couldn't judge optics too much, but there were some flowers in the corner. It was comparatively dark. You could actually look at a couple of things. And what I saw is not half bad. I mean, the guys behind GPO have been around. You can sort of assume they're not gonna make crap, and I don't think they did. But the proof is in the pudding, so I'm going to look at a couple. A brief overview. So for hunting market, GPO makes, I brought this little price list 2018 thing. They had a whole catalog, but it's the same things. It's on the website. On the rifle scope side, there is Passion 3X, which is 3 to 9 and 4 to 12 scopes. Passion 4X, slightly higher end. These are 30mm tube, 3 to 12, 6 to 24. Passion 6X and Passion 8X, 6X, 8X, it's all basically the erector ratio. Once we get to the Passion 6X or 8X, we've got some fairly day bright illumination and things like that. All in all, the scopes looked interesting, it looked pretty good, and on the higher end ones, it sounds like illumination is day bright. So looking at it, there are a couple that I'll try to look at in the duration of the coming year, and they promised that they'll let me borrow a couple of scopes. One that I'm interested in is the GPO TAC. It's their tactical rifle scope. They've got two models right now on GPO TAC, both aimed basically at the AR market. There is a 30mm tube, 1 to 6 by 24. I think it's a front focal plane. Its map is $1,700. It's got a nice horseshoe type reticle and a BDC. I'm not real big on BDCs, as anybody who's listened to me knows. The 1 to 8 is a little bit heavier. It's a 34mm tube. Nice turrets, look like nice turrets, pretty decent reticle, horseshoe and a mil scale, which I kind of like. Yeah, so I'm gonna try to look at that one. The map is $1,900. Illumination is supposed to be day bright. What I saw was fairly bright. So I am curious. What's illuminated is the horseshoe and the dot. So looks like a pretty well sorted out scope. Probably. So all of the with GPO, the higher end stuff, the Japanese stuff, is all made by Light Optics. Works in Japan. Then some of their other scopes are, I think, Philippines, and a lot of the binoculars and other things are made in China. I don't have any problems with stuff made in China as long as it's done well. One interesting thing that I learned, so the guy I was talking to at Meopta is not actually mostly, I briefly talked to Mike Jensen, who is GPO USA. The guy I talked to the most was Suruj, who used to be with Meopta, and now he's with GPO in Germany. And he basically says wherever the product comes from, they bring it over to the company in Germany, and they do 100% QC on everything that comes in. That is a big deal. The all the different OEMs in China, Philippines, Japan, wherever, they're perfectly capable of making a very, very nice product. Where I see things getting through is quality control, and it sounds like a GPO they're taking quality control pretty freaking seriously. So what I am going to do, since I'm sort of time limited, I can't look at everything. I'm going to start by looking at the 1 to 8 by 24 tactical scope. I've been looking at that type of scope for a little bit now, and I'm very curious to see how this one will do. I think it's available now or about to be. So I'll take a look at that. And that's the probably most expensive rifle scope right now. It is the most expensive rifle scope right now. And I'm gonna look at one of the cheaper ones, either 3 to 9 by 42 or 4 to 12 by 42, something like that. Its map is right around $400, and I'm really curious what can you get as a basic, reasonably decent hunting scope for around 400 bills. So I'm kind of, if I like what I see, then maybe I'll look at something else from their hunting line that's a little bit higher end. But for now, I think I'll look at their fancy tactical scope and a fairly basic hunting scope to sort of get kind of bracket where the brand is. We talked a little bit about future product introductions. I like where they're going. They're thinking about things. They're thinking about it, I think, in the right way, in a clever way. So that's going to be interesting. They do have a whole line of binoculars. I got my hands on the Passion HD 42, which I think it's Chinese, I want to say. Is it Japanese? My memory is not what it used to be. I'll get all the details. I think it's Chinese, but it feels really... No, that one is Japanese. Never mind. That one's Kamakura, I think. But regardless, it feels... They're using sort of hard rubber coating on a magnesium chassis. It feels nice. The focuser feels nice. The color contrast is nice. They are machined aluminum eye cups, so nothing really is particularly going to wear out there. I pointed it at a very dark flower pot, trying to look in the shadows, and for 10 by 42 binocular, it maintained a really nice color pretty far down into a low light situation. So for, what's it, my map on that one is around $1,000, so it's gonna go up against Meoptas and Razors of this world and a few other binoculars, and it's probably gonna do okay. I don't know how much time I will have to look at binoculars in the coming few months, but I really should give it some thought. I mean, this could be a very interesting binocular. But there are a lot of recently good binoculars from China and Japan in their $1,000 marks, so I need to give it some thought. If I do it, I'm going to look at a bunch of them and really survey that price range. This is kind of where I try to do things. Try to find a particular price range, configuration, and try to look at everything half decent, try to get that. But anyhow, that's German Precision Optics. I think they're going to bring in a spotter, probably some other things. So the name is kind of funky in terms of German Precision Optics. Nothing really is made in Germany, although they do some design stuff. They add some electronics, reticle illumination, I think, in Germany. It looks better than I typically see from Light Optics Works. But they are particular about this. They spec stuff the right way. There's some design work happening in Germany, and they use an OEM to build stuff. It's not a bad way to go, because working with an established OEM, a high quality OEM like Light Optics Works or there's some other guys, it's not bad, really. It's OEM offers them a lot of options. They know what to look for, they know what to ask for, and they know how to do QC. So not bad. I'm cautiously optimistic, right? That's I don't want to jump to conclusions when dealing with a pretty new brand, but I like what I see so far. So anyhow, so that's German Precision Optics. With Delta, the guy actually brought me a bunch of scopes to look at and a binocular, which I think is somewhere. Did I bring it from the car? Yeah, I'll grab it in a moment. I looked at their website, looked at their product line, and pointed at a few scopes that looked interesting, and that was 4. And he brought them over for me to play with. I promise to report. So let's start with the precision stuff. So this is a 4.5 to 30 by 56 front focal plane. Nice Christmas tree-ish reticle, illuminated. Side focus parallax goes down to 25 meters. It's a fairly beefy scope. My best guess is the design is in some way related to the 5 to 30 by 56 Light Optics Works scope that a bunch of people use. But I looked at it briefly outside in the dark. It's nighttime. It's almost 1 a.m. Yeah, there is more contrast in the scope than I expected. This is very first initial brief look. So I'm curious. It officially has got my curiosity piqued. All the controls are reasonably worked out. They are side focus a little bit on the stiff side, but it's very workable. There's no, I don't need a gripper for this. There is zero stop in the elevation turret. I do not think the windage turret locks. No, it doesn't. So non-locking turrets, but there is a zero stop in the elevation turret. The elevation turret is kind of tall. Windage turret is kind of short, right? So everything looks nice. The elevation turret is not that tall, really. Well configured Japanese scope. So called Striker HD 4.5 to 30 by 56. The other Striker scope, Striker is their highest end line, is this guy. This is more of a target scope. It's also 34mm tube, just like the previous one I showed you. Also zero stop in the elevation turret, and I don't think there is any sort of stop or locking in the windage turret. Turrets are good size, easy to grip, not too bad. Clicks are reasonable, a little light, but it's not bad at all. Since there is zero stop, I don't mind. This is a second focal plane scope that goes from 5 power to 50 power, right? The reticle is sort of a standard there you go, standard milling reticle, very thin, very nice, with a floating center dot. So this kind of competes. What does it compete against? It probably competes against some Marches, although it's cheaper. It competes against Citron S5 or SV, I think it's S5. It competes against Vortex Strike Eagle. But this, remember, this is 10 power eruptor ratio, right? So it has a broader zoom range than any of those. I need to look at the specs more carefully, see what kind of elevation range and all that it has, but this is an interesting package. One interesting thing, in my previous post, I was talking about short scopes. None of these are terribly short, but notice the scope that offers you more magnification also is notably longer. So generally, this is a pretty long objective lens system. So I looked at it a little bit. Looks very respectable. I'll have to compare it to some other scopes I have that offer high magnification, but kind of like what Delta is doing here so far. So anyhow, so these I think two of the newest scopes. They look pretty decent. Both have good contrast, good resolution. And then I've asked to look at a couple of scopes for their titanium line, which I think also Japan, also Light Optics Works. And they are different. I picked them just because the configuration is different. The first one is sort of a basic hunting scope with illuminated reticle. What piqued my interest is the unusual configuration. The magnification goes from 1.5 power to 9, and the objective is 45mm, but it's kind of a longish scope with illuminated reticle, no parallax adjustment. Interestingly, it has different finish. It's more of a matte, coarser finish than the polished finish on the Strikers and other scopes. So yeah, I'm curious. One of the reasons I really wanted to look at this one is the reticle. The reticle is sort of an evolution of a German number 4. I'll add the reticle picture in the write-up. It basically looks like a number 4, right? Bottom thick post, bottom side, a nice thick side posts, illuminated dot, but on a horizontal stereo there are two wind hold marks. I need to see what the correspond. Basically, you have 2 extra dots to hold for wind or for lead. I'm assuming it's for driven game and things like that, but I think it is a useful addition to the number 4. But even without illumination, without all that, the reticle is nice and thick and visible with a comparatively thin center crosshair. It looks like a well worked out hunting scope, so it's something I'm very curious about. I will compare it to some similarly priced hunting scopes out there and see what I think. Finally, the last scope that I wanted to look at in terms of a configuration is probably the weirdest one of them all. I think they've had it for a while. It's not a new design, but I was really curious. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this in the US market. It's a 4.5 to 14 by 44, 1-inch tube, front focal plane scope with adjustable objective instead of side focus, so it focuses down to 15 meters. Kind of long, slim, and slender, with a pretty decent eye relief, and it's got a nice, fairly sophisticated tree-style reticle with a floating crosshair for an aiming point, some ranging features, and since it's all in the front focal plane, I kind of don't need the turrets. This scope, being front focal plane and 1-inch tube, does not have a whole lot of adjustment range. So the turrets are a little bit taller. I probably would have preferred lower turrets. But I'm really curious about using the scope in a set and forget configuration. Basically get it dialed in and then use the interesting looking reticle for shooting. So it has a Christmas tree light features out to about 5 mils, which is really all I need. Below that has some other interesting features. I've seen some with similar scopes on some airguns, so it might be a good airgun scope. It's rated for center fire, right? So for precision rimfire, it's probably a really nice scope. But if you can try it. Adjustable objective has sort of fallen out of favor because further forward it's harder to reach, but I like it. And like I said, the front focal plane 1-inch tube scope is not common, so I really wanted to see it. And honestly, it looks pretty cool. I mean, there's no illumination, but the way the reticle is designed, and even at low magnification, it's really visible. It's really nicely done. I'm kind of liking this. Now, these Delta guys, I march to the beat of their own drum and do so quite well. And lastly, I think I've got a... Let me grab it. It's here somewhere. Haven't opened it yet. I've got a Delta binocular, which I think retails in the $300 to $400 range. And that's something I'll need to look at. It is a Chinese-made binocular. Delta does QC, quality control in-house. They have all the test equipment and all sorts of other jazz. It's a 10 by 42 ED with the silver coatings. The focusing knob feels pretty nice. Tethered objective caps. One intermediate stop eyepiece. It's not half bad. I don't know. I just opened the binocular. I don't really have any opinions, but with rifle scopes, I can see what they were thinking when they designed the reticles, designed the features. So it's always a nice thing, even if I agree or disagree with the design decisions. There is logic behind it, and they were thinking. They were not just trying to copycat what somebody else is doing. They're sort of trying to solve this problem of what works in their own way, and I have a lot of appreciation for that. Anyhow, that's my sort of a pre-show report of sorts, and hopefully you've have not fallen asleep listening to me. I will be posting more tomorrow. Tomorrow is a busy day. I've got a bunch of people to see, but for now I'm done. It's 1 a.m. I'm going to sleep. Good night all.